I call Chris Bishop.
Well, thank you very much, Mr Speaker. And as my colleague Andrew Bailey pointed out, this is, I think, the only bill that the Regulation Review Committee considers. But they are important bills, and Mr Hipkins has unfortunately left the chamber, and he noted before
order.
that. Yeah, a good
Can't
point.
refer to the
Dodge
absence
that,
of a
sir.
member.
Sorry, apologies, sir. Mr Hipkins mentioned before that my colleague Andrew Bailey's speech was so boring, and one might say that these issues are somewhat technical, but they are actually very important. And I think the speech by the Honourable David Parker actually elucidated why bills such as these are small and minor, and in some ways technical, and you might even call them boring, but they are really important. So the Regulations Review Committee is a real workhorse of the Parliament, I have to say, and it's very well, I have to say, it's very well chaired by the Honourable David Cunliffe, and we're very fortunate to have David Parker on the committee, and we are really actually making a huge amount of progress across a whole range of issues at Regulations Review on Thursday mornings. It's very collegial. We work in a very bipartisan fashion. We're also privileged enough to have the Honourable Chester Borrows on the committee, and I think we are raising the bar in terms of what Regulations Review committees have done. I acknowledge that the Honourable Marion Street in the former Parliament did a good job of chairing the committee, but we are, as my colleague has mentioned, taking a look at the vexed issue of Dinleys. We are taking a look at the issue of acts that Parliament has passed but have not actually been brought into force yet. And the House may be surprised to know that there's a whole range of acts that Parliament has passed, some as far ago as the 1980s, that are actually not part of our law because they have not been brought into force yet through order in council by the Governor-General acting on ministerial instruction. And for some of them, as my colleague Paul Goldsmith points out, for some of them there are good reasons, but for others there perhaps are not. And so we are actually kind of forensically going through that list and thinking, well, perhaps that situation is not desirable, that Parliament passes an act. It has the support of a majority of Parliament. It sits on the statute books, or at least provisionally sits on the statute books, I guess you could say, but it's not actually part of the law of New Zealand. So we're having a look at that. So with that minor digression, sir, about the important and powerful Regulations Review Committee that I'm very pleased to sit on, I just want to endorse this bill. Part 2 is the most interesting part of the bill because it rationalises the terms of the existing confirmation and validation provisions, and as colleagues on the committee have pointed out, we'll be taking a close look at that. The nomenclature of these provisions are confusing, and as Andrew Bailey has pointed out, we're taking a good look at that in the committee. Part 2 of the bill is the one that I think we'll be examining most closely. Sir, with those brief remarks, I commend this bill to the House.